Hello and welcome to the first in a multi-part series about the Novation Ultranova. My name is Douglas and I'll be taking you through the ins and outs of this synthesizer over the next few videos. But this first one, I want to focus on three things. First of all, I want to talk about the synthesizer in general and the things that I like about it, the things that I don't like about it. And I also want to talk about why I got this synthesizer, why I chose it, some of the reasons behind choosing this over any other synthesizer out there. And thirdly, I want to just kind of go through the different parts of the synthesizer and kind of talk about how I use them. So first of all, this is the Ultranova, put out by Novation. It's a 37 key synthesizer, full-size keys, and contains a lot of sounds. I think it's like over 250 sounds. It has an audio interface built in. It's a 2-in, 4-out. The inputs here, there's 4 outputs there. It has damper pedal and an expression pedal input. It has MIDI in, out, and through. It's got some really cool features, and I'll cover that in the last section. The main reason why I got this synthesizer over some of the other ones is the band that I'm in, we use a lot of pads and a lot of synth type sounds. Not as much the hardcore leads and those types of things, the electronic bass sounds, but we use it for the movement pads and just the analog pads and things like that. Once in a while, I like to spice it up with something harder, maybe a pad with the filter cranked up on it to give it some bite. But basically, I bought this for synth and pad sounds. One of the big reasons I got this is for the full-size keys. You see a lot of the synthesizers out there with the mini keys, and in a live situation, I like to be able to have the full-size keys. Another big reason that I got this is for the polyphony. I think this has 8-note polyphony, which allows me to play a full chord, whereas some of the smaller ones with the mini keys or some of the other synthesizers out there only have 2 or 4-note polyphony, which really I can't get a full pad sound in there. So that's one of the big reasons that I got this. I also got this because it has an audio interface, and I do some home recording, and that'll be another session. I'll show how to set it up, how I set it up. Those are some of the things that I like about it. It's a very, very good controller, as well as a synthesizer and an audio interface. So it's a very good package. The last thing I want to go through is just kind of the sections that this synthesizer has. First of all, we have the global section. I don't have it hooked up right now, but there is a dynamic microphone input on the top here. It comes with a vocoder gooseneck microphone. That plugs in here. I don't have that plugged in right now, but you can plug any dynamic microphone into that port, and it'll work fine. There's a bunch of vocoder settings. In another session, I'll kind of demo some of the sounds. But that's the top of this section here. Then we have a couple of volume knobs, and these are really cool. There's the master volume, which controls the volume of the overall. But then we have another knob here it's called the monitor knob, and basically it provides a balance between what's coming from the computer and what the synth is putting out. So external, internal, and how the balance is between those two. So if I crank it all the way to the right, it gives me just what's inside the synthesizer through the headphones. If I crank it all the way to the left, it's only what's coming in through the USB. So it gives you a good balance, and a lot of the time I'll run it half, 3/4, so that I can hear what I'm playing and give myself a monitor and also hear what I've already recorded coming out of the computer. I really like that. Just a couple of global audio settings, your octave, minus, plus, real quick access there. You've got the pitch and the modulation wheels. I'll show you some neat settings behind those, but those are, you've got backlit rotors. We've got the mode sound, a big knob for sound selection right here. We've got the synth. We got a patch browse button right here. So I can go in and hit that, and then you can go through all of the different categories. So all the sounds are categorized as well as by genre. There's also auto map. So if your DAW software is set up, you can auto map and use the knobs up top to control software synth knobs. There's this control section right here, which contains 8 touch-sensitive knobs. Basically, these have a little bit of play to them, and basically what you can do is if you go into touch mode, these can manipulate sounds. By touching these knobs will give the sounds a little bit of a different feel, movement, things like that. So that's a really cool feature that I'll demonstrate in a later video. You also have a back and a next button for navigating through. It's a 2-line screen, and it seems sufficient. It's a small screen, but a lot of your controls are on the surface itself and not necessarily having to dive into menus. And there is some diving if you want to edit sounds, but basically the 2-line is sufficient for a lot of what you need to do. You can also plug this in, and there is a software side to the synthesizer. I'll get into that in a later video. The last knob over here is for your frequency, and this is a quick filter knob. So you just crank it up, crank it back, and it works really well if you're playing a sound and you want to just bring it in real quick, fade it out, things like that. I find this really handy when I'm doing pads. A lot of time I'll swell, I'll bring the frequency way back and bring a sound in, those sorts of things. Then the last section here is the synth edit, and this kind of contains all of your envelopes, LFOs, mixer, filter, oscillators, modulation, all of that are in these buttons here. So you tap those and your screen changes accordingly. There's also effects and vocoder, so if you're using the vocoder, you can adjust the vocoder level and things like that. I'll demonstrate that in a later video as well. Also what we have is the arpeggiator, and you can turn the arpeggiator on here. You can go into settings, change all of the settings for that. And there's also a latch button, so if you want it to hold when you play the sound, it latches on, and when you let off, it'll continue the sound until you hit off or undo latch. There's also a chord section. This section basically allows you to go in and you turn it on. You define up to 7 notes, and then every time you play a root note, it'll play those 7 notes, and you can build chords that way. So you can do 1-finger chords, which is very handy. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll run this keyboard on my top tier, and I'll have another keyboard below it. So I might be playing a piano sound on the one below, and I may just want to have, arpeggiated sound or a chord synth sound that I can just play with 1 finger up top. So that's a really cool feature, and you can also go and you can just transpose that very quickly through the menu. And the last bit is the touch and the tweak, and that allows you to tweak the sound very quickly using these 8 knobs, or use the touch sensitivity functionality of these knobs. Very cool. As I mentioned before, the audio interface, 2 in, 4 out. I'll dive into that later and show you how I set everything up with the computer to record, how I plug microphones into it. I use just a little external mixer for phantom power so that I can use a condenser mic into this. I'll go through all the settings. There's USB, and this whole board, the synthesizer, can be powered off of USB as well. So that's basically it. There is aftertouch on these keys. They are touch sensitive, and I really like the quality. I've played a lot of keyboards, and this is one of my favorites. It's very, flows very well, and just has a really great feel. Easy to get the aftertouch in there, and everything's accessible. I love the size. It's really not that heavy, but it's heavy enough that it doesn't bounce around like some of your cheap little controller keyboards do. So again, to recap, audio interface, MIDI controller, but most important of all, great sounds. And I'll demo some sounds in a later video. Thanks for watching this one. If you are interested in buying this or finding out some of the technical specifications behind it, what it has for oscillators and all of that, there's some links in the description below. So yeah, Novation Ultranova, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll be doing them in the coming weeks. But again, general overview of the Novation Ultranova, why I bought it. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Thank you.